Okay, let's talk about something we all wrestle with: discipline and love. We usually think of them as total opposites, right? On one hand, you've got punishment, and on the other, you've got pure acceptance. But what if that's a false choice? What if scripture is trying to tell us something a lot more challenging? The idea that the deepest kind of love doesn't just accept us as we are, it actually corrects us. So today we're going to dive into how real, true discipline isn't about punishment at all. It's actually about this incredibly powerful restorative process. I mean, this is the central conflict, right? It just is. On a gut level, when we get corrected, it feels like the opposite of love. It can feel harsh, and we expect love to be, well, gentle. But the whole perspective we're looking at today asks us to completely challenge that assumption. We need to reframe this thing entirely. And this is where that reframing comes from, right here in Hebrews chapter 12. I mean, look at the wording here. The Lord disciplines the one he loves. The verse doesn't just connect discipline to acceptance, it says it's a sign of it. It's not about rejection, it's about being accepted as a son or daughter. And for a lot of us, that's a totally revolutionary idea. This slide just lays it all out so clearly. We often get this backward, don't we? Our culture tends to think that not correcting someone is the kind thing to do. But this deeper truth, it flips that completely on its head. It says a father who never corrects isn't being kind, he's being negligent. And when you see it that way, discipline suddenly becomes one of the clearest expressions of love. It's an act of investment. It says, I care too much to leave you where you are. It's the opposite of indifference. So let's just be super clear on what we're talking about here. When we say divine discipline, we are not talking about random punishment. Not at all. It's purposeful, it's redemptive, the whole motivation behind it is love, and the goal is always, always our growth and restoration. So you see, it's not just a different technique for correction, it's a completely different way of thinking about it. Okay, so if the framework is love, what's the point? What's the purpose? This is where it gets really, really important to see the difference. The sting of discipline might feel the same at first, but the intent behind it changes absolutely everything. Think of it like this. It's the difference between a chaotic explosion and a controlled demolition. One is just destruction, the other is designed to clear the way to build something new and better. It's all about correction, with the ultimate goal of bringing you closer, not rejection that's designed to push you away. And here's that contrast again. On one side, you've got punitive rage. Its only goal is to destroy. Its action is to reject, just push away. But then, on the other side, you have redemptive correction. Its goal? To shape, to mold you, kind of like a potter working with clay. And its action is to restore. So the very same event on the outside can come from two totally different places and lead to wildly different results. So what's the end game here? What is all this shaping and restoring supposed to produce? Well, the book of Hebrews gives us this just beautiful picture. It says it produces a harvest of righteousness and peace. Isn't that something? It's not meant to create fear. It's not meant to create shame. The entire goal is to grow something good, something lasting inside of us. And this whole idea has a very real, very human application. When a parent disciplines their child, they actually have this incredible chance to paint a living picture of what God's love is like. Discipline that is firm, that's consistent, but is also purposeful and so clearly rooted in love, that's what can help a child really grasp the nature of God's love. It's a huge responsibility for sure, but man, what a beautiful opportunity. So that kind of covers the why behind discipline. But what about the how? I mean, how do we actually experience this love when we're right in the middle of being corrected? Or when we just feel weak, like we're totally failing? This brings us to another really crucial idea, that love isn't just for our best moments. In fact, it's most powerfully present in our absolute lowest ones. And that's a fair question, isn't it? I mean, it's one thing to talk about how discipline is for our own good, but it's a whole other thing to actually feel it. When you feel weak, it is so easy to start believing that you're disqualified, that you're no longer eligible for love or grace. But the answer we find in Scripture to that feeling is just so profound. It basically says that God doesn't wait for you to get strong. He's not demanding you get your act together first. Instead, he meets you right where you are and covers you in your weakness.
And this comes from an incredibly powerful verse in 2 Corinthians. The whole idea is that God's power isn't just reserved for the strong. No, it's actually made perfect. It finds its absolute best expression right in the middle of our weakness. Think about that. Our moments of failure aren't obstacles to his power. They are the very stage where it gets to be displayed most clearly.
All right, so we've talked about discipline as an act of love, and we've talked about grace being this covering for our weakness. But you know what? These ideas don't mean a whole lot if they just stay up here in our heads. The real question is, how does this apply to us right now? So let's take a moment to get personal and reflect on this with a few questions that come right from the source material.
First up, let's look inward. When you feel that corrective nudge in your spirit, that quiet sense that, hey, you need to change course here, what's your gut reaction? Do you lean in and listen? Or is your first instinct to resist and pull away?
Okay, now let's flip that around and look outward. Think for a second about how you correct other people. Maybe it's your kids, maybe it's your coworkers, or even your friends. When you do that, is your real goal to shape and restore them, coming from a place of genuine love? Or, if you're really honest, is it sometimes just an expression of your own frustration? That's a tough question, but it's a really important one to ask. And finally, here's a thought I want to leave you with. If it's really true that God's power is made perfect in our weakness, then what does that mean for us? It means that hiding our struggles is actually getting in the way of his power being displayed in our lives. So the last and maybe most challenging question for you today is this. What weakness have you been hiding that you need to finally bring out into the light, where his grace is just waiting to meet you and cover it?